Namaste, guys. ChristianRLong, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Thursday evening. I want to lower this a little bit so we can get my teacher. Actually, I want to raise this, not lower it. What was I thinking? That's kind of weird. Trying to get Master Choa in the background. I thought I had it all set up. There we go. There he is. Hope you guys are doing well on this February 13th, 2020. It seems like only 6 weeks ago we started 2020. Well, in fact, it is. So I have a client of mine who wants me to do a specific topic. And I'm waiting to do that specific topic because I want people to be engaged in it. So we're not going to do it just yet, but we will, I promise, within the next couple days. So for those of you who do not know, every Sunday, that's very funny. Every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Time, online, we do a group Twin Hearts meditation and a healing. So we basically do a little lecture around a certain topic, then we do the meditation, and then during the meditation, we do energy healing on all the participants relative to typically the thing that we're giving the talk on. So if we give a talk on love, then we remove blockages to receiving love. If we're doing a talk on courage, then we remove blockages to receiving more courage. If we're doing a talk on prosperity, then we remove the blockages to receiving more prosperity. So I would recommend, if you are available from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Time every Sunday or a Sunday, jump on. I will be posting that invite later on today. You can see it on the Facebook page above this video, most likely. And then, what else? Yeah, and so the meditation is always free. Rain, sleet, or shine, no matter what. We ask for a $25 donation for anyone who receives healing, because this is kind of like our little church service, right, that we do. And this is an offering and pretty much goes right back into providing more healing services and what have you. Gita, Namaste. Am I going to be seeing you in Mawa? If that was my understanding from last time you jumped on, I think I'm going to be seeing you in Mawa. So hopefully we can connect. Hope you're doing well with the fam. So the topic for today is, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to good people? So we have to first define what is bad. You should be. I should be what? We should define what good is and what bad is. Right? Wouldn't that make sense? Right? Because language dictates reality. Language creates. As we speak, so it is. So when you call somebody bad, what are you actually saying? And when you call somebody good, what are you actually saying? So for our intents and purposes for today, we can say someone that is bad, they're not bad. What they're doing is they are out of alignment with what is good, what is right, what is wholesome. You should be seeing me in the retreat. Okay, perfect, good. Kim, Namaste. Good to have you on again as always. Good. I should be seeing you, or I will be. Right, going back to our language, you can always tell. Master Choa says, listen to the essence in between the words. So when somebody says something, there's also energy in between the syllables and words that they're coming up with. So if you're sensitive, you can tap into where someone's coming from and the kind of energy that's being brought into the situation. And also, I notice coaching people, healing people, that when we make a commitment, right, we're talking about a commitment right here of the person going to the retreat. When we talk about a commitment, you can tell how powerful the energy is by the words that they're also using. So if somebody says, I might be there, or I may be there, or I think I'm going to be there, not as much energy in commitment and materialization if somebody says, I will be there. Absolutely, I'm going, right? Do you see the difference of energy? So if you propose to somebody and they go, yeah, I guess we could try it out, would that be a little bit different than if the person says, absolutely, 100%, I'm all in? See the difference? So our language dictates how we show up with ourselves, with our environment, and with other people. So relating it to today's topic of good or bad, somebody that is bad they're not bad. It's their lack of alignment with good, right? It's kind of like the example of talking about temperatures, hot and cold, right? There is no such thing as cold in the universe. It's actually the absence of heat, right? So there is no such thing as hatred in the universe. What it is it's an absence of love. Does that make sense? It's an absence of love. It's a blockage to love, right? There's no such thing as darkness. It's simply the absence of light. Does that make sense? So in our discussion for today, you have people, Adriana, Atman Namaste, you have people that come up with the point about, well, I'm a good person. Why do all these bad things happen to me, right? I'm a good person. Why do all these bad things happen to me? Well, number one, is that entirely accurate from that person's point of view? What is the bad thing that is happening to them, right? Is it bad relationship stuff? Is it bad financial stuff? Is it bad career stuff? What is the thing that is actually happening in their lives, and why are they identifying that as bad? Because, number one, you have to have awareness of this incarnation, never mind previous incarnations. How many people have heard even themselves of like, I want to know what I did in my previous incarnation. What was I? Who was I? Was I a pharaoh? Was I a prince or a princess? Was I, this super powerful warrior general that commanded thousands of people to take over villages all over Europe or all over Asia? Like, who was I? Was I like a white magician in ancient Egypt, right? Was I a master of hermetics? Look, can you remember what you ate last Wednesday for breakfast? If you can't remember what you ate last Wednesday for breakfast, and you don't have that awareness, don't worry about what you were 12 lifetimes ago. Look at your current incarnation, and how your life is going is a good indicator of how you lived previously. Meaning what? So if you're having financial difficulties right now in this incarnation, the likelihood of, maybe I've stolen in this lifetime. Maybe I haven't been generous in this lifetime. Maybe I've been withholding in this lifetime. Maybe I've been lazy and not industrious in this lifetime. So the fruit is poverty. The fruit is financial difficulties and challenges. Does that make sense? So you don't have to look 10 lifetimes ago. You can just look at, well, how am I showing up in the past 5 years with my finances? For instance, Grandmaster Chola Koksui says, what you waste will be taken from you. Right? What you waste will be taken from you. So, if you waste time, time will be taken from you moving forward. If you waste money, money will be taken from you moving forward. If you waste food, food will be taken from you moving forward. So, that's a really good way of looking at it. Like, here's a simple example when it comes to waste. I'm a man. I shave pretty much every 2 to 3 days, rain, sleet, or shine, no matter what I'm doing, because it's a habit at this point. And this is, before I was growing my beard out. But in general, I shave every 2 to 3 days. So, Charles, I'm going to say, as I'm shaving, what is there a tendency to do with most men? They keep the water running, right? They keep that hot water running, and that is wasting water. Right? So even one of the masters of pranic healing brought that to our awareness. Or when you're brushing your teeth, you just turn the faucet on and then you leave the faucet running for 2 or 3 minutes while you're brushing your teeth. Not necessary, right? So that's wasting water. Same thing with wasting food, wasting money, wasting time, wasting words. That's another big one. So if you waste sex energy, what is taken from you? Exactly. So Prashant brings up an excellent point. If you're wasting and it's withheld from you, so if you're wasting sex energy, what happens? Well, interestingly enough, as we age, our sex energy goes from high to lower to low. Stephen, namaste. Does that make sense? So sex energy is being wasted. So people who have a lot of sex, I'm making general statements. There's always exceptions to the rule. But in general, people that are constantly releasing and releasing and releasing and releasing and aren't conserving, preserving, and transmuting their sex energy to feed their brains as they age Alzheimer's is a greater probability, right? Because sex energy is needed to feed the brain to keep a person mentally sharp with good recall and memory, etc., right? So if you waste sex energy in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, then you have less sex energy as you age into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. Very important, right? And that relates to any area of our life. Whatever you waste will be taken from you. So, sex energy goes to my brain, and sometimes I'll send it to the body part. Yes, transmutation of sex energy is also in key. Think and Grow Rich. Again, yes. So Napoleon Hill wrote a book in the late 1920s called Think and Grow Rich, and I believe it's chapter 14. Don't quote me on this, but he has a chapter called Sexual Transmutation. This is in the 20s, written by a Christian author about the principles of success, talking about sex energy. That's pretty high level in the United States in the 1920s to be talking about sex energy. But in essence, he's saying a man, because it's more relevant to men than it is to women, men get their greatest inspiration and boost into their 40s, like starting in their 40s, because they start transmuting their sex energy. So in their 20s and 30s, they're constantly looking to release, hunting women like prey, right? And wasting that energy. But when they hit their mid 40s, they start naturally transmuting the sex energy, and instead of using it to have sex with women, they're using it to create with their projects, their business, their career, their finances, their empire, right? Ideally, the younger a man can do that, the more successful he will be throughout the totality of his life. So, good and bad people. There is no such thing as good and bad people, because if you look at the yin and the yang, within yin, you have a little bit of yang. Within yang, you have a little bit of yin, right? So no one is ultimately all bad and no one is ultimately all good, right? We're talking generally for the general populace. So there could be certain people that are very kind and loving and generous in these relationships of their lives, and then those same people are very cold and cruel and withdrawn in other relationships in their lives, right? So which is it? Is the person bad? Is the person good? Right? It's circumstantial. So when we observe people, we have to observe them on all levels in all areas of their lives, right? All areas and all levels of their lives. We can't just say that person did this thing, therefore they're a bad person, or that person did that thing, therefore they're a good person. For instance, if somebody gave money to charity, let's say they wrote a check for $10,000 to charity. Sounds like a good thing, right? But what if that was one of the few things that person has done to express generosity, and behind the scenes they've robbed, stolen, exploited other people for their own selfish needs, wants, and desires? But on the external, you would say, wow, that person's a really good person. They just gave a $10,000 check to charity. And then what about the other person who throughout most of their life have been kind, loving, giving, sweet, and then they get into an argument with a person one time, out in the street, and they end up killing that person, right? They end up like pushing the person on a car, the person trips, falls over, and then smacks their head on the pavement and breaks their neck, and the person's dead, right? Is that person who did that horrific act, is that a bad person? Are we going to completely negate all the good things that person has done in their life? Not necessarily. So you could look at, like, my father would be a prime example of saying, well, how could a good person, how could bad things happen to a good person? So my father grew up he was born in 1942, and he was pretty much a loner most of his life. His father passed away when he was 5 years old. So my father grew up without a father. And then he had the choice of going into the military at 19. Rather than going into college and following his passion of becoming a history professor, he ended up serving 5 years in the Marine Corps during Vietnam, and he served in Da Nang at the worst possible spot and time of the Vietnam War, right? So my father was a very sensitive man to begin with, very empathic. He was very sensitive to other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, feelings, energies. My father was an empath. He didn't know what an empath was at that time in his life, but very, very sensitive. And then guess what? He goes into the Marine Corps and he has to kill other human beings because that's his duty, that's his assignment, that's his obligation from the U.S. military. And then guess what? For the rest of his life, he's tormented because of those horrific things that he had to do in order to survive, in order to protect our country, right? In order to protect freedom, if you will. So it's very interesting because even though my father was good before going into the military, and then after getting out of the military, he was a very good person to the best of his abilities. He had alcoholism, he had a lot of family trauma and drama growing up, and then meeting my mother, marrying her, getting divorced, and then all the stuff that happened after that, fighting with the military so to get benefits and all these different things. You could go, well, wait a minute. That doesn't, like, he was a good guy. Why did all these bad things happen to him? Because of what he did in this incarnation of killing the lives of other people. He didn't do it because he wanted to. He didn't do it because of enjoyment. He did it because it was kill or be killed, right? And he wasn't drafted into the Vietnam War. He chose to go into the Vietnam War because he had no other direction from other people in his life. So this incarnation, even though he was a relatively good person, he did some bad things that caused him suffering throughout the rest of his life. So what could my father done to neutralize, Janice, I'm going to say, what could my father done to neutralize the negative karma that he experienced in his life? He could have tithed. He could have done service, right? My dad wasn't big into service. And my dad could have learned his lessons around what happened in the military, meaning he could have forgiven himself. He could have forgiven the people that he killed, because my father did kill people. My father, in order to get his 100% disability from the veterans, had to have a 300-page case file of all the things that he did and witnessed throughout his life. I'll give you a really interesting example of some of the things that my father witnessed, not even in the military. Not even in the military. When my father was working in waste management, my dad was basically a garbage man. There was this a piece of equipment on one of the like a trash compactor. And so one of the trash compactors was not working. So this is back in the 60s. You know, the guy is just going in and fiddling around with it to see if he could get it working again. And the guy ended up getting it working again, and he got decapitated. So my father got to witness somebody getting decapitated. Do you think that would be kind of stressful? Probably, right? Then, when my father was in the Marine Corps, there were young guys that were practicing weapons, handguns and rifles. Well, one of the guys thought he was hot stuff, and he took his gun, his handgun, and he started spinning it around, right? Well, spinning it around, it ended up going off and blowing his head off. So my father had to witness that in the Marine Corps. Those are two stories of many stories that my father had to witness before the Marine Corps and during the Marine Corps and shortly thereafter. Then he was dealing with alcoholism and depression and anxiety and all these other things after the Marine Corps. So it's like, how much suffering can one person experience in one incarnation? My father has suffered a tremendous amount, right? So it's amazing when you think about it. So what could he have done again? Service, tithing, and learning the lesson. So that would be my recommendation to each and every one of you. If you are having a difficult time in your life where things aren't going smoothly, right? Rather than sitting back and saying, woe is me, life is so difficult, why are all these unfair things happening to me? What I would recommend is tithe, serve, and learn the lesson. Tithing, very simple. Take 10% of your net income per month and give it to a charitable organization of your choice. That's it. Super simple technique. I just gave it to you all right there, and you would be amazed at how many people don't practice that. They're having financial difficulties, understanding the law of karma. If you want to increase your material and financial prosperity, you give. As you give, you what? You receive. As you give $1, you get $10 back or more, right? But people miss that very simple truth. So they'll complain for a very long time about their finances, but never open up their wallet and give. Very important. Number 2, service. It's recommended within pranic healing and Hatha yoga 3 hours a week minimum of service to an organization, a nonprofit, a charity that you believe in their cause or purpose that you can donate time to, right? So tutoring children, helping the elderly, helping out with the feeding program, helping out with the soup kitchen, giving 3 hours a week of your time to another organization of your choice. Why? As you give time, what do you get back? Time. As you provide help and assistance to others, what is provided to you? Help and assistance when you need it. So Stephen says, my father, grandfather, and uncle killed many thousand during war, so I lived a life of service, tithing, and making sure all to help others. Correct. Neutralizing negative karma. And then the third one is learning the lesson. Learning the lesson. Because when you learn the lesson, what happens? This is actually a really cool point that my teacher, Grandmaster Choa Koksui, talked about energetically speaking. So you have we know them as the Lords of Karma. The Lords of Karma. So the Lords of Karma are very, 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 very advanced beings that know even a single leaf falling from a tree to the ground. The Lords of Karma know about that. I'm trying to give you a conceptual understanding of something so magnificent. Eric, Namaste, the barbecue king of Massachusetts. So magnificent, it's very difficult to understand it. So we got to dumb it down in ordinary terms for us to understand, right? So the Lords of Karma help us evolve. Everything is either neutralizing karma. Basically, everything is neutralizing karma. We're always seeking balance. So anything that happens to you that's not good in your little viewpoint on the incarnated soul level, and you're like, that shouldn't have happened to me. The fact that it happened negatively neutralized some of your karma and told you what not to do moving forward. Then when you benefit from some good karma, then guess what? That tells you what to keep doing more of. Pretty fascinating, right? So when we learn our lesson, when we're not learning our lesson, let me rephrase that, the Lords of Karma have a quote-unquote stick. This is energetic and partly metaphorical. George, Namaste. So they're hitting us with a stick, right? They're kind of nudging us on our path of spiritual growth and development. We have free will. We can do whatever we want, right? But they're kind of nudging us. And as we're not learning our lesson, that nudge with the stick becomes harder, bigger, and stronger in our lives. Why? For the purpose of getting us to wake up and do the right thing, right? So if you were a parent and you were disciplining your child, you would increase the severity of the discipline if they were not listening, right? You're not doing it to be mean, to be cruel, to be hurtful to your child. You're doing it for the purpose of helping them become a better person, a more civilized adult, right? But guess what happens when your child starts learning the lesson? Do you keep hitting them with the same severity, intensity with that stick? Or do you back off? Because you don't have to nudge them as hard, right? You can be more kind, you can be more gentle. So that is the benefit of learning a lesson. That is the benefit of learning a lesson. Super, super important. So if you are suffering in your finances, your career, your spiritual practice and path, your physical health, your relationships, wherever you're suffering, you have to sit down and go, okay, Lords of Karma, I'm suffering. I'm not seeing this properly. Please help me. The stick freezes in midair. They go, aha, this soul is ready to learn. This soul is ready to stop doing the bad things and to start doing good things to move them in a greater alignment with their higher selves and ultimately alignment with God, with the divine plan. Right? I always joke with people that you will never outsmart the lords of karma, in the sense of like, you're suffering and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing regardless of the consequences. You will reach a point in your life, maybe not even this lifetime, maybe the next lifetime, but you'll definitely reach a point in your life that the burden, the pain, the suffering that is being caused you will be so extreme, you are forced to change. That's called hitting rock bottom. We talked about this yesterday in the stream. When you hit rock bottom, you have a tendency to change. Unfortunately, most of us will only change at rock bottom. We should change up here, not at rock bottom. So Stephen says, we must ask ourselves questions like, how can this problem make me a better person? How can it increase our connection with God? How can we learn to be more humble, even broke? Even broke? And other questions that teach us how to take the adversity and grow benefits with the seed within the problem. Also connected to Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill said within every adversity is a seed of equivalent or greater benefit. So if you're having financial problems, within that financial problem is the seed for your salvation to being financially prosperous. Within that relationship problem, there's a seed to have deeply loving, fulfilling relationships. Within that physical health problem, there is a seed to tremendous physical health, vitality, stamina, and strength, right? But we have to find it. Paula, namaste. We have to find it. Super, super important. So I hope that makes sense for you guys about the three, about the original topic of tonight's talk was, was why do bad things happen to good people? Bad things are happening to good people because A, that person lacked awareness, B, the person doesn't have the right viewpoint, and C, that person did things at some point in time that's coming back to roost, that's coming back to them, right? Because karma always has to be paid. Karma always has to be neutralized, for better or for worse, right? Always has to be neutralized. If you plant corn, you have to get corn. If you plant tomatoes, you have to get tomatoes. If you plant love, you have to get love. If you plant fear, you have to get fear. If you plant anger, you have to get anger. That's just how it works. So the goal is to have awareness of like, all right, I'm suffering right now. I must have planted suffering previously. What can I do to get out of this suffering? Tithe, serve, and learn the lesson of what caused the suffering. Aha, I'm not going to do that again. And what could I do the opposite of that? Okay, be more kind, more loving, more generous, more patient, more tolerant, more courageous, more industrious, more blah, 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 blah. Then you're no longer in this mindset of I'm a bad person because bad things are happening to me, or I'm a good person because good things are happening to me, right? Make sense? Clear? You guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, clarifications based on that? It's a huge topic. The fascinating thing about spiritual teachings is that it's so simple to understand surface level. It's so simple to understand surface level, right? Like if you want people to be friendly towards you, right? Be friendly towards other people. Super simple, right? Couldn't be more obvious. How often are we friendly to everybody? How often are we friendly to the homeless person, friendly to the person yelling at us, friendly to the person in the Starbucks line, friendly to the cashier at the grocery store, friendly to our ex who contacts us out of nowhere, friendly to, right? How often are we that? Because it's both. It's not doing the wrong thing, and it's also doing the right thing, right? It's not doing the wrong thing and doing the right thing. It's two sides of the same coin. And I think a lot of people miss that simple teaching. They're like, I want people to be super kind, friendly to me all the time. I'm not mean to people. I don't yell and scream at people. Okay, great. So what's your karma? People don't yell and scream at you, right? But that doesn't mean they're going to be kind, loving, and friendly to you, right? Because you have to sow the seed of that thing. So one is non-injury, one is loving kindness. One is the non-doing, one is the doing. One is the yin, one is the yang, right? So you have to do both. You can say, okay, Christian, having financial problems right now, but I've never stolen from anyone. Okay, great. You haven't stolen from anyone, therefore no one's going to steal from you. At least that's your awareness in this incarnation. And that's also assuming your awareness is correct. But let's say that it is. You're having financial difficulties. You haven't stolen from anyone, so no one's going to steal from you. But then my next question is, have you been generous? Have you been financially generous? Have you taken money from your account and given it to a spiritual organization of your choice, a nonprofit of your choice, an NGO of your choice? Have you? Well, then that means you are not sowing the seeds of prosperity. You're not planting seeds of poverty, right? But that also means you're not planting seeds of prosperity. Whatever you want, you have to give it. Not only, I'm not doing something, therefore I'm not receiving something. That makes sense? It was one of the big things that I've always wanted to do is to understand higher spiritual teachings more often. So for the past 4.5, almost 5 years, we've been doing these live streams on Periscope, Facebook, and on YouTube, because by sharing my teacher's teachings, the teachings of Grandmaster Chogo Koksui, what am I now entitling myself to receive more of? Not only to receive higher spiritual teachings, but also to be able to understand higher spiritual teachings. Because when I share these teachings with you guys, it's not to pump you up and get you super excited. It's to inspire you to take action, right? You're suffering. In some way, shape, or form, you're suffering. And so we're like, okay, how can we alleviate your suffering? How can we explain it in such a way that a light bulb goes off in your head and you take action, right? Because what is the old saying? Faith without works is dead. So just because you know something doesn't mean you're applying it. And if you don't apply it, you don't get the benefit. The Quakers are famous for the expression, pray and move your feet. Connect to God, have faith in God, trust in God, surrender to God, but work your butt off at the same time. I think they figured it out. I think they cracked the code. As opposed to, I believe in God, I have trust in God, I have faith in God, and I'm going to sit here and God's going to provide for me. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to take physical action to materialize it. I'm just going to, God will provide. Right? So we have to do both. Connect to God, have faith in God, have trust in God, and we have to take action and move our feet. So I think that's I think that's a large challenge for most teachers and facilitators, and we have some teachers and facilitators actually on this stream right now, is that they see the people sitting in their audience and they're like, how can I transmit and transfer my understanding of this topic to them so it improves the quality of their life? And that's the challenge, right? Because you're having to speak many different languages and you're having to speak at different levels of understanding and different levels of truth. That's what makes a great teacher and a great facilitator, right? So it's like when we would attend Grandmaster Chogo Koksui's classes, he was teaching to people that didn't even know what a chakra was, all the way up to people who had been, working with chakras for 10, 15, 20 years in their own practices and had a high degree of mastery. How does he talk at both levels so when those people leave, they're inspired to take action to the next level of their spiritual growth and development? That's not an easy thing to do, right? And it's not an easy thing to do. And I think about the brilliance of Master Choa Kok Sui's classes. The level 1 pranic healing class, which I took 16 years, almost, it'll be 16 years ago next month. It's like, I still review those classes and I still walk away with notes. It's like, how can I walk away with notes from a class that I've been reviewing for years and years and years, and I'm a professional energy healer? How much content could be in one class, the basic class? Because it's so deep, it's so rich, there's so much to it. And like Master Choa says, if you want to master a subject, you have to teach it. Going back to our original point. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this evening's class. Steven says I missed a large comment. How did I miss? Oh, that's weird that didn't even show up. You're right, I did miss it. Some of the first lessons we need to ask ourselves about relate on how we grow, be stronger, be caring, and take negatives and turn it into positives. We must learn to appreciate a penny to best appreciate $1 million. We pray, set the frame, generate, focus the energy, and then take bold, vigorous actions on the physical plane. Manage like Stephen. I don't know why that came up. We must constantly review teachings and practice to keep our skills, keep our edge. Avani, I'm going to say, correct. Vince Lombardi, right? One of the winningest football coaches in history, always was going back to basics, always going back to basics, always going back to basics. The beginning of the season, he would hold up a football and he would say, what is this? This is a football, right? Going back to basics. These are people who have been grown up with footballs and grown up in the football world since they were 5 and 6 years old doing peewee, right? Here they are in their mid-20s, and he's saying, this is a football. So it's kind of like we have all these understandings about very, very advanced spiritual techniques and teachings and healing practices, but it's like, this is a chakra. Oh, okay. This is the aura. This is how you cleanse. This is how you energize. I remember one of the master pranic healers said a couple years ago that it's good. In pranic healing, we have many, many different tools and many, many different techniques to produce miraculous results in the lives of other people. And one of the things that we use are colored pranas or colored energies. And he says, sometimes just go back to white energy, using white prana, and see how that will produce a miracle. Cool, right? We don't have to get so advanced all the time. Just the simple technique of white energy can produce miracles in the lives of the people we work with. One of the other masters said, hey, we're always using crystals in our healing practices. Why? Because using a crystal makes the healing rate 400% faster, right? With less congestion to the practitioner. Well, that's a no-brainer. Hey, I want to produce a faster result in less time, which is redundant, and I want to get less congested. Perfect. I'm going to use a crystal. But then guess what? People become reliant on the crystal, and they also can lose a level of their sensitivity as they're feeling energy with the person. So it was recommended, you know what? Spend some time healing without the crystal. Put the crystal down. Put it off to the side. Scan the chakras with your hand. Do the cleansing and energizing with your hand. You don't need the crystal all the time. Right? Back to basics. Kind of covered a lot of topics in tonight's stream. The paragraph you missed, then read, I had copy-pasted, forgot to trim the Facebook part, so you're actually doing quite well figuring out my intended communications. Good job, ChristianRLong. Yeah, I'm learning. After all these years, I'm starting to figure it out. I calculated I've done over 400 hours of live streams. To put that into perspective, that's almost 3 weeks in real time. Imagine 3 weeks of real time of streaming, 24 hours a day for 3 weeks. Today's topic is the meaning of life. So, Thank you guys very, very much for sharing your time and energy with the group. If you would like healing, if you are inspired to transform your life, go to ChristianRLong.com. It's my name, this guy right here, ChristianRLong.com. You can schedule right there on the website. I get it in my phone, you get it in your phone and email, and then we see each other on Zoom, Skype, or FaceTime, and you say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Can you help me? This is what I'm unsure on. Can you help me? This is the problem in my family, my relationships, my health, my career, my life's purpose. Can you help me? In doing this work for 16 years and being trained directly by Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui and 6 of the world's 8 pranic healing masters, yes, we absolutely unequivocally can help you. No doubt. Now, man, you talk a lot. That's true, I do. There is something I want to put out there. And this could be an entire stream in and of itself. And I might actually do a stream on this in the next coming week. Is unrealistic expectations lead to suffering? And that phrase was coined by Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui. Is that we have certain expectations that when they're super high and when they're not met, we're super disappointed. And especially in the world of energy healing, alternative medicine, is that for some strange reason, we have a certain expectation on what should happen. For instance, if you had a migraine headache, like a severe migraine headache, and you took aspirin and it didn't go away, you wouldn't think that much of it because you're like, well, it's a migraine. And you start clearly figuring out, okay, maybe it's something more difficult, more severe. Maybe I have to see a doctor about this. Maybe I have to see a neurologist, right? So our expectations are more realistic. But when somebody comes in for healing and they say, I have a migraine headache, and you go, okay, well, how long have you had the migraine headache? And they say, oh, I've had it on and off for 5 years and it's been very severe. And they're like, okay, so we do healing, and the person doesn't receive a miraculous result in one session, so they go, well, it must not work. And it's good. It's like, you have to understand something. It took 5 years of intense pain, negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative karma to bring you to the point of having this headache, this migraine. And yes, there are miraculous healings, but there's also a level of expectations of it's probably going to take more than 1 or 2 healings to alleviate that migraine headache. Now, the funny thing is about migraine headaches is I have success with migraine headaches, and actually I can produce a miraculous result, typically within 1 or 2 sessions. But that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is that we have to have realistic expectations when we get healing services from professionals. Even with cancer, right? You go to a doctor who spent 30 years specializing in cancer treatments and therapies, and they look at you and they go, okay, well, based on our experience of thousands of people with these drugs and these treatments, there's a 60% chance, Harita Namaste, 60%, 70% chance of you being, of your cancer going into remission. They can't say cure. Have you noticed that? They can't say cure at all. They can't say cure in the medical profession without being sued. They can't say cure within the alternative healing profession without being sued. You can't say the word cure. Interesting, right? Remission. It's a way of protecting the medical establishment, which is understandable. But we go into we go in and we get cancer treatment, right? And the person spends $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, and it's not guaranteed to be in remission. You ever wonder that? So it's not guaranteed to be in remission, even though there's thousands and thousands of case studies of how it works and then what the likelihood of it going into remission. But you don't see people suing or being upset with the doctors that it doesn't go into remission. But then when those same people come over to the holistic community or the alternative medicine community or the energy healing community, they have a expectation of a miraculous healing result. It's like, huh? you spend $75,000 in 6 months of treatments and you still have cancer, but you come in for 5 treatments or 5 sessions for cancer and you're not healed, but you spent a few $100s. I'm not understanding, right? So when I work with people, I always like to give them realistic expectations. I like to say, look, this condition has been around for a very long time. The likelihood of 3 sessions healing you entirely of it, not so likely. But if you and I work with each other for a period of 2 or 3 months, you will receive miraculous benefits and results from working together. But guess what? You're going to have to show up just like I have to show up. How does a pranic healer or energy healer show up? They do their spiritual practice, their purification practices. They do what they're taught, following the protocol step by step by step. That's our end. And then the client's end is following the simple instructions, doing the homework before, during, and after sessions, consistently giving feedback so the healer can tweak and refine and hone the protocol, right? To give the person the benefits that they're seeking. So healing is collaborative. It's not just one person's doing all the work and the other person's receiving all the benefit. It doesn't work that way, because the reason the person has the condition, the ailment, the sickness, the disease is also because of karma, right? So there's something for them to learn in that experience. If you don't learn it, the person can't grow and evolve and move forward. Recently, funny enough, I was receiving a healing from my mentor, and I get healing pretty regularly. And I was receiving a healing from my mentor, and in the healing, something came to me of, okay, this healing is helping me with this part of moving my life forward, but I also have to do this, this, and this to move forward. So then when the healing was over, she said to me, hey, I can help you with this, but this part you're going to have to do because it's your lesson to move you forward. And I was like, sweet. I got that in the healing and the meditation portion. And then you're validating that by telling me it directly. So that's why healing is a collaborative experience. The healer has to do their part of their professional training, and then the client or the patient has to do their part, the homework before, during, and after, show up for the healing sessions, and then give feedback to the healer so they can stay in touch with one another. So Stephen says, for cancer, another way to stay in remission, you must address the causes, from food to environment to emotions, primarily emotions, to karma, to life lessons, to learning new, better patterns, behaviors, lifestyle changes, mindset, etc. Spiritual bypassing of not addressing what must be learned means we have to learn it again. So we must get and implement the lessons. Correct. So everything is not, quote unquote, a spiritual lesson. It could be a physical lesson. It could be an emotional lesson. As we understand it from within pranic healing, most cancer, the cause of most cancer is from negative unresolved emotions within the person's emotional body. So the negative emotions, the anger, the hatred, the bitterness, goes from the emotional body and then manifests in the physical body, and it's literally eating the physical body from the inside out. So negative emotions is definitely something on the platter. And my experience has been a lot of people I've met who suffer from cancer are very negative people. Everything is pessimistic. And you could say to yourself, Christian, wait a minute, hold on. Maybe they're negative because they have cancer. It's the chicken or the egg. Okay, great. They're negative because they have cancer. They're angry because they have cancer. They're upset with the world because they have cancer. But it is also possible that something happened in their life 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago that affected them emotionally, that created a lot of anger, bitterness, and resentment within their system that they held on to, that they never forgave, they never let go of, they never practiced gratitude to move forward. Is it possible? It's possible. Which there are even people that I've come across in my life who have cancer. I tell them this is what the protocol is. It requires forgiveness, requires to do this, eating a vegetarian diet, receiving salt baths regularly, and they won't do it. Think about that. You are dying from a physical disease that's eating you alive from the inside out. And you're like, I'm not going to do it. And the weird thing is, and this is just me, I'm not saying this is everybody, but I've always thought to myself, the reason I like pranic healing and Arhatic yoga and the teachings of Grandmaster Chogo Kuk-Sui is he was a chemical engineer. So he designed things very systematically, very step by step. He would take the result and reverse engineer it. Somebody healed of this, how do they heal of this? Somebody had a migraine, now they don't. Like what is the process of healing, right? So when somebody has a severe condition or ailment and you say to them, you need to practice forgiveness, it's not like you're saying, I need you to stand on your head for 3 hours a day and then only eat banana peels for the next 6 weeks to cure yourself. I'm simply saying, you have negative emotions, right? Do you feel negative? Do you feel angry? Do you feel hateful? Yes? Okay. Would it make sense that if you forgave, you would feel better and possibly your cancer would go into remission? It makes sense, right? It's not so far-fetched. It's so way out there. But there's people, because of their negative pride, because of holding on to pain and trauma and self-pity and many, many other factors, they won't move forward. And then those people die of cancer. Blows my mind. I mean, I get it from the higher levels and the soul and the karma, but it's just... as a healer, you want to see people heal. As a healer, you want to see people transform. You want to see people get out of their own way and like, you can do this. You can make it happen. But that's not the case for everybody, unfortunately. So we do what we can. We show up consistently and persistently with each person, each time, do the best that we can, and then hope for the best. Hope that that person's soul sends down the right signal, the right energy, the right blessings to transform them and to heal them. Because as one of the great teachers, Holy Master DK from Tibet said, all disease is from lack of soul contact. All disease, physical, emotional, mental, is because lack of soul contact, lack of soul energy coming into that person's life. That's what healing is. Healing is removing what is not of the soul so the soul can move into that person's life and transform them. Cool, right? Sibel, have a namaste. Look at you sliding on, you little sneak. Thanks for the love, though. And that's it, guys. So thank you very, very much. This was a pretty long stream. I think we did like an hour. Hope you got benefit. Please share this on your personal and professional Facebook pages if you got value, because if you got value, I'm pretty sure your network is also going to get value. And I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful upcoming Valentine's Day for those of you in the U.S., and a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Bye-bye.